You are the chair for today's committee, ma'am.
All right, the chair for the committee is not here, correct?
Director Gray, today is water policy and legislation, and you are the chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking it's fine. All right. Thank you. All right. Well, welcome to the Water Policy and Legislation Committee for the West Basin Municipal Water District. We will call this committee meeting to order. Do we have a quorum? Can you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. President Gloria Gray.
Here.
He's out of order. Director Donald Deere.
Here.
Director Scott Houston. Director Tommy Favai. And Director Desi Alvarez. Madam Chair, we have a quorum for the Water Policy and Legislation Committee, but we do not have a quorum for the special meeting of the Board of Directors.
Great. Thank you very much. So we can proceed. Is there any public comment?
We do not have anyone in the room indicating they'd like to speak. Ms. Chairman, while we have not received any requests for public comment through this meeting, though this meeting is being held in person and virtually, if there is any member of the public that would like to speak, please indicate so by raising your hand virtually now. Madam Chair, we have no requests for public speaking.
All right, thank you. All right, next item is presentations. Are there any presentations?
There are no presentations today, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next item is number 5, action calendar. Do we have any items for action?
We do. Madam Chair, today we're going to bring an item before the committee for considering offering a support position on the Delta Conveyance streamlining process. I think it's very important to note that this is not necessarily support for the Delta Conveyance project at this time, but rather for an effort that Governor Newsom and the legislature will be considering here during this early session related to streamlining the planning process for the Delta Conveyance project. We have Augustine Hahn in the room today to give a presentation on the issue, and I think you'll see in the board packet also quite a bit of information that will offer ultimately a very good background and understanding of what's being asked today. But Augustine is here to present the item and receive feedback.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric. President Gray, Director Deere, you can find the staff report for this item on page 3 of the agenda packet. And I'll ask Desiree to pull up the presentation slides as well. Thank you. And if we could move on to the next slide, please. Just wanted to give you an overview of the presentation today. And I also just wanted to acknowledge that the Delta is a very complicated issue. So I'll do my best here to provide a succinct but also a helpful background for this item. Moving on to the next slide, please. So just in summary, as Eric mentioned, staff is recommending a support position on the DCP streamlining. Back in May, the governor, along with his May revise, included legislation aimed at modernizing infrastructure and improving water supply reliability in the face of climate and extreme weather impacts on water supplies. And so this was the Delta Conveyance Project streamlining. And at the time it was trailer bill language. That budget was ultimately adopted without DCP streamlining included, leaving discussions for DCP for after the summer recess, which ended this past Monday. Next slide, please. And so just to provide a bit of background about the State Water Project, 700 miles of canals, pipelines, reservoirs, and hydroelectric facilities delivering water from the Sierra Nevada mountains. This, of course, travels through the Sacramento San Joaquin Bay Delta. And this system provides water to 27 million Californians and provides roughly 30% or a third of the imported water supplies in Southern California. I'll also mention that State Water Project is a core supply within Southern California's water supply portfolio. Moving on to the next slide, please. The Delta Conveyance Project is the proposal to modernize the State Water Project. And the current proposal improves the ability to capture and move water during wet periods. It meets water quality standards. It provides endangered species protections and delivers water to surface and groundwater storage throughout the state. This is not the first attempt at Delta Conveyance. You may recall that prior iterations of this project had various names, including the Peripheral Canal, the Twin Tunnel proposal, and what we're considering now is a single tunnel proposal. The project has been downsized and modified over the years and through its many iterations. Moving on to the next slide, please.
What page
A
number is
little background about the DCP planning process. The planning process is complex and interconnected. It also considers state and federal requirements. This process was initiated by DWR in 2020. And it's a process that must be completed before investment decisions and construction and operation of the project. This includes compliance with the California Endangered Species Act, the Federal Endangered Species Act. It needs to be consistent with the Delta Plan and also has other planning and permitting requirements. Just a note for you that Metropolitan has decided to invest in this planning process. Back in December of 2020, the Metropolitan Board agreed to invest $160 some odd million in this process. And then just recently in December of 2024, they decided to invest an additional $142 million in this process. Next slide, please. Also just wanted to call out last year, the state conducted a benefit cost analysis for the Delta Conveyance Project. And so in May of last year, they released this report estimating that the benefits of this project outweigh its costs, estimating that nearly $2.20 in benefits for each dollar invested in this project. Also in that analysis, the study found that projects or supplies from the Delta Conveyance Project are approximately $1,300 an acre foot, which is, according to the report, a lot cheaper and more cost effective than other potential supply sources. And so just an important affordability consideration there. Moving on to the next slide, please. So this topic of permitting reform has been on the mind of legislators. I believe it was last year, the Assembly Select Committee on Permitting Reform, chaired by Assemblymember Buffy Wicks, released a report detailing systemic permitting challenges to addressing California's housing and climate crises. Just specific to water, the report mentions drought mitigation, flood control, and sea level rise adaptation projects require multiple agency approvals, creating years-long delays for infrastructure that are needed to protect or provide essential services to millions of Californians. On the slide here, we have a picture of the cover of the report, and I will just point out that a picture of the Sacramento Bay Delta is right there, right on the cover of this. Moving on to the next slide, please. And so this brings us to the DCP streamlining proposal that we saw earlier this year during May. the legislative proposal to streamline key components of the DCP's pre-construction planning and design activities. This is a key point here. This proposal does not authorize or initiate the construction of the DCP. This proposal also provides authority for funding, judicial streamlining, streamlining of property acquisitions, and allows for advanced payment to utility companies for electrical work needed for construction. Next slide, please. And so over this past year, the state has taken various actions regarding DCP. The timeline in the slide and also in the agenda report lays out a back and forth that's been happening at the state level. The governor has made it clear that DCP is a top priority for him, but also members of the Delta Caucus have taken steps to further delay the process. Next slide, please. And so just to cover a bit about the advocacy that's been going on around this effort, there was a letter including 28 legislators that was led by West Basin delegation member, Assembly member Tina McKinner, who is also the chair of the Los Angeles delegation. This letter was in support of the DCP streamlining effort. The other legislators from the West Basin service area included Senator Richardson, Assembly members Gibson, and Jackie Irwin. There's also been a support coalition letter amongst labor, business, infrastructure, social justice, and nonprofit organizations. This includes Metropolitan and many of its member agencies. It also includes local organizations like the South Bay Association of Chambers, also the Redondo Beach, Palos Verdes, and Torrance area chambers of commerce, and also labor organizations, the State Building and Construction Trades Council. Moving on to the next slide, please. There's also been opposition to this effort, and that opposition has been loud. The Delta Caucus, a group of about 14 legislators, sent a letter in opposition. They cite concerns related to the environmental review process, the cost of the project overall, and others. There are also a number of NGOs that have been in opposition, including Restore the Delta, San Francisco Babekeeper, Defenders of Wildlife, Sierra Club, and LA Waterkeeper. Moving on to the next slide, please. And just to summarize the impacts to West Basin, West Basin has had a longstanding history of making investments to help reduce reliance on imported water supplies, including recycled water and also conservation. But imported water supplies remain critical to West Basin's water supply portfolio and also to the water supply portfolio for Southern California. This effort also reflects the board's adopted principles and priorities, and that's priority number one, support policies that advance statewide and regional imported water reliability from the State Water Project and the Colorado River. So just wanted to call that out as well. And then also just highlighting here, these pre-construction planning and design activities are to produce the key information necessary for future decision making. And so this will ultimately be a decision by the Metropolitan Board of Directors and also the publicly elected Board of Directors of the state water contractors to make that decision whether they would like to invest in this project or not. And so we see this as an exercise of providing the information to the decision makers, not making the decision itself. And if we can move on to the next slide, please. And so the staff recommendation at this time is that the board consider an adopt position on the DCP streamlining. Just because of the nature of timing, I'll acknowledge that we don't have the bill language in print at the moment, but the staff is asking for support in concept at the moment. And that
Thank you.
concludes the report.
Thank you very much for that report. Director Deere, do you have any questions regarding that item?
No, that was a very good report. Thank you.
Thank you. Um, can you tell me what legislators in our district that have not, you named just a few, so are we trying to get more signatures, or is that Metropolitan trying to get more signatures?
That's correct. Yeah, so the Support Coalition, along with Metropolitan, have been working on legislators throughout Southern California, including some of the members in our delegation who have not supported yet. But I will mention that our service area has had a good showing so far in support. So we're happy about that. I can also see if there's any other comments in the room.
No, there's a,
Well,
oh, go ahead.
yeah, I
Go
really
ahead.
asked, I really asked the question, who in our service area has not signed the letter? That was really the question. So do you have a list of those that have not signed the letter in our service area?
We do have a list of those legislators. Happy to share that out as appropriate.
Yeah. President Gray, we don't have that right in front of us, but we can get you that subsequent to this meeting.
Right, because I've been asked to contact, I know there's a few of them, maybe it's one is in our service area, and I'd just like to see that list. And I think Met had reached out to me, Christine Fry, I believe, from Met. But I'd like to follow up with the request. So if you could provide that with me at some point.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, Director Deere, thank you very much, Augustine and everyone. Thank you. Can we move that forward with the recommendation?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. We'll move it forward with the recommendation to support.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Is there another item, please?
Madam Chair, that concludes our action calendar, but we do have 2 items on the information calendar if you're ready to proceed.
Yes, please.
All right, this month's monthly state and federal legislative update will be provided by Augustine Hahn again. I should note that Augustine is a water policy and resources development analyst too, and this item will start on page 41 of the board package.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, directors. Yes, I'll direct your attention to the PowerPoint slides that have been attached in your agenda packet. And so if we could move on to the state update. The next slide, please. Yeah, and so as I mentioned in the previous report, the legislature returned from their summer recess on August 18th. And so we are now in the final sprint of the legislative year. September 12th is the deadline for each house to pass bills without a special session. And so legislators and the governor will be working on all those important topics throughout the next month or so. Major issues that remain on the table include the Delta Conveyance Project streamlining that we just presented. Other topics can include energy affordability bills, cap and trade negotiations, and also redistricting, which I'm sure you've seen in the news. Next slide, please. All right, a little bit about the Delta Conveyance Project. Also the item that we just presented. In relation to that effort, the Newsom administration and DWR released an accountability action plan. And so the accountability action plan includes multiple components that are designed to hold DWR accountable to help avoid or minimize or offset potential impacts of DCP construction within the Delta communities. So this was an effort to kind of, appease the Delta caucus and the Delta communities and kind of reassure them that there is going to be support and also funding to help with their issues. Next slide, please. The State Water Resources Control Board just released their Bay Delta plan. This is also related somewhat to the Delta. And so on July 24th, the State Board released the plan. The plan incorporates the Healthy Rivers and Landscapes program, offering 2 regulatory pathways. The first of which is a comprehensive approach combining flow and habitat protections. And second, a flow-only approach for non-participants. And so this would be the first meaningful update to the Bay Delta Plan since 1995. The plan would restore over 45,000 acres of aquatic habitat, dedicate substantial water flows to environmental purposes, and others. The State Board is responsible to protect the beneficial uses in the Delta using the in-stream flow requirements to address water quality or salinity within the Delta. And so the administration also took the steps to secure $2.9 billion to implement the Healthy Rivers and Landscape program for the next 8 years. Next slide, please. You may also recall that former Vice President Harris recently announced that she will not be running for California governor. This recent Emerson College polling survey shows how polling numbers have changed since. And so to call out some of those notable shifts, former Democratic Representative Katie Porter has moved from 12% in April to 18% in August. Undecided voters have moved from 54% to 38% over the same time period. And also Steve Hilton was not in the race in April and it is now is at 12% in August. That concludes the state report. I can pause here to see if there are any questions.
Are there any questions?
No
Director
questions.
Deere? No questions.
No questions.
Go ahead,
Thank
Augustine. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so I'll move on to the federal update. If we could move on to the next slide, please. The federal lawmakers have left Washington for the annual August recess, but a few weeks of relative quiet on the U.S. Capitol grounds can't mask the partisan tensions that are brewing. And unless the Trump administration releases more Epstein-related information before lawmakers return, that issue will continue to be prominent. When Congress returns on September 2nd, they will use much of the month working on spending bills for the coming budget year. Congress will need to pass a short-term spending measure to keep government funded for the short term, while they work on longer-term measures that cover the full year. It's not unusual for leaders from both parties to blame the other for a potential shutdown, but their rhetoric seems to have begun extra early this year, signaling that the threat of stoppage is more serious than usual. Separately, Senate GOP leaders are considering changes to Senate rules to get more of Trump's nominees confirmed. Senate Majority Leader John Thune of South Dakota hinted at the use of an expedited confirmation process for civilian nominees, a process that the Biden administration used. So far, Democrats have insisted on roll call votes, which is a lengthier process. We could move on to the next slide, please. On July 21st, the House Appropriations Committee advanced its $38 billion spending package for the EPA and the Interior Department on a 33 to 28 party line vote. EPA would see its spending reduced by 23%, which is a huge reduction, but still less than the White House's request for 55%. The funding amount for the drinking water SRF is $895 million, down from $1.1 billion, and clean water SRF is funded at $1.2 billion, which is down from the $1.6 billion. And so moving on to the Senate side, on July 24th, by a bipartisan vote, 26-2, the Senate Appropriations Committee advanced their spending package of $41.5 billion for the same agencies. Senators in both parties acknowledge that the bipartisan process has been difficult, but must be done to avoid a shutdown to those agencies. The package maintains funding levels for the drinking water and clean water SRFs, and the EPA would see a spending reduction of about 5%. Both packages now head to the respective floors for vote following recess and will need to be reconciled before funding runs out October 1st. Next slide. And so this update is regarding the low-income water program. In late July, Representative Sorensen from Illinois, along with 6 co-sponsors, introduced the Low-Income Water Assistance Program, or LIWAP. The legislation would reestablish and make permanent the first ever federal water assistance program after funding for the program expired in 2022. If you recall, this was a COVID era program, and there is low income rate assistance on the energy side. And so this was an effort to provide that same assistance on the water side. In the coming weeks, it is expected that Senator Alex Padilla of California will sponsor the Senate version of this bill. I'll just note that West Basin has taken support positions on other rate assistance measures, including LIWAP in the past. And supporters of this bill, of this effort, include Association of Metropolitan Water Agencies, National Association of Clean Water Agencies, American Water Works Association, and Water Environment Federation, just to name a few. Moving on to the next slide, please. And so the House recently took action on a Clean Water Act permitting bill that was introduced in the House. Republicans backing the bill. I'm sorry, let me back up here. So a vote on the promoting efficient review for modern infrastructure today, or the Permit Act, has been delayed. The Republican effort to fast track energy projects, ease regulations, and revise EPA's authority under the Clean Water Act. This would extend NPDES permit conditions from 5 to 10 years, and protections for ephemeral streams, limit states' ability to block energy projects due to water quality concerns. And it also includes a 60-day window to file a lawsuit challenging a permit to alter wetlands. It would also restrict EPA's ability to override wetlands permits issued by the Army. The Republicans backing the bill say it would allow energy projects and other infrastructure to move forward quickly. Industry trade groups like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce have supported this bill. However, environmentalists say it would make it harder for EPA to require the best water pollution controls at industrial facilities and sewage treatment plants. One provision of the bill would limit citizens and advocacy groups' ability to sue companies for discharging pollutants that are not disclosed in their wastewater permits. Similar legislation passed the House last year, but failed to advance in the Senate. This effort could have the same fate despite the majority quotes in the Senate. That concludes this update. The next update in your federal report includes an update regarding reclamation in the Colorado River. But just in the interest of time, I'll defer providing that update and let Tammy cover that in the Metropolitan update. Moving on to the next slide, please. Thank you. Sure. Director Gray, I've got one more update for you.
All right, thank you,
EPA
Augustine. Thank you.
Sure. The The EPA moves to repeal the landmark endangerment finding that allows for climate regulations. So the Trump administration has proposed an EPA rule that would rescind the 2009 endangerment finding. The endangerment finding is the legal underpinning of a host of climate regulations under the Clean Air Act for motor vehicles, power plants, and other pollution sources. And so this is all part of the administration and EPA Administrator Zeldin's deregulation efforts. And climate scientists warn that overturning the endangerment finding would undermine decades of scientific progress and damage the credibility of U.S. institutions tasked with protecting the environment. The EPA proposal must go through a lengthy review process, including public comment, before it is finalized, likely next year. Environmental groups are likely to challenge the ruling in court. While conservatives and some congressional Republicans support the plan, calling it a way to undo economically damaging rules to regulate greenhouse gases. The Supreme Court ruled in 2007 that EPA has the authority to regulate greenhouse gases as air pollutants under the Clean Air Act. That concludes the report.
Okay, well, thank you. Are there any questions, Director Deere?
No, no questions.
All right, thank you. Augustine, thank you for those reports. Can we go to the next item, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair. We have one more item on the information calendar. That's the monthly Metropolitan Water District update. And today it will be presented by Tammy Herlihy, Senior Water Policy and Resources Analyst. On the item begins on page 88 of the packet. And Tammy.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Gray and Member Deere. I'm happy to provide an update for you today on recent board discussions at Metropolitan. As Eric mentioned, the report starts on page 88 of the committee packet. And then in addition, there are PowerPoint slides to help guide the updates on this report. So yeah, if we can get started on that, thank you. We can go to the next slide. Thank you very much. So this first slide is regarding Colorado River resources and reporting of the Bureau of Reclamation. So there's a copy of two reports here on this slide. The first one is the 2024 Annual Water Accounting Report. This report was issued last May. Reclamation issued this report, which documents water transfers and conservation activity in the lower basin states. And this report has highlighted how much water has been added to Lake Mead as a result of efforts by Metropolitan and other California agencies regarding their rebate and land fallowing programs. So in summary, in 2024, there was about 500,000 acre feet of water that had been conserved by California. And this is the equivalent of keeping 7 feet of water in Lake Mead. Arizona and Nevada has also contributed to leaving water in the Colorado River at Lake Mead. And then regarding the annual operating plan, in June, Reclamation published the first draft of the 2026 Colorado Annual Operating Plan. And Reclamation prepared this report on operations of the river reservoirs during the past year, with projections on operations and releases for the current year based on the elevations and hydrologic conditions. So currently, there has been very dry spring conditions, and based on this, the dry condition, the planned releases from Lake Powell to Lake Mead could be reduced in 2026. Next slide, please. So an update on the post-2026 operating guidelines. As you know, the 2007 interim guidelines for the Colorado River operations are set to expire in 2026. And last November, Reclamation had published an alternative report, and in January, released the National Environmental Policy Act Alternatives Report. Reclamation has held several meetings with all basin states to review and refine the alternatives towards the development of a consensus-based, long-term and sustainable river operation. And recently, the basin states have agreed to focus on what they're calling a supply-driven alternative. So under this supply-driven alternative, it would provide a fixed percentage of the total river inflow to the upper basin. This particular approach would differ from the current guideline, which would base Lake Powell releases on the average of the last 3 years of inflow using hydrology instead of using the reservoir elevation. And the Department of the Interior and Reclamation, they support the basin states' efforts to reach a 7-state consensus alternative. However, the Secretary of the Interior has also stated that he would be prepared to act unilaterally if the basin states would not agree to a consensus. So if any action would be prompted by the Interior, it could have an impact on the operating rules based on fixed releases from Lake Powell Reservoir instead of the upper basin area, and it would not take current hydrology into consideration. On the right side of the slide, it shows a map which originated with the Colorado River Compact of 1922. This map divides the Colorado River into the upper and lower basin states, with the division being at Lee's Ferry. And the Colorado River Compact of 1922 is the law of the river, which is a set of federal laws, court decisions, and federal actions that regulate the use of the Colorado River. The compact apportioned the right to beneficial consumptive use of 7.5 million acre feet of water from the Colorado River system to both the upper basin and the lower basin. And recently, the lower basin states have requested that reclamation include assumptions for purposes of the compact compliance in the current NEPA analysis. And the assumptions include 4 areas, and I'll just mention those 4 areas. One is required upper basin deliveries pursuant to Article 3 of the compact. The second is a compact call by the lower basin states, which could initiate legal action to enforce provisions of the compact if the upper basin is using more than the allocated share. The third is curtailment or other reductions in the upper basin. And the fourth is other related actions by the United States in management of the reservoirs. I just wanted to provide that, highlight that update for you on those discussions. If we can move to the next slide, please. All right, so with respect to the Sites Reservoir, a few years back in 2022, Metropolitan approved $20 million to allow participation in Amendment 3 work plan by authorizing an amendment to the existing 2019 agreement with the Sites Project Authority. So the Amendment 3 work plan has focused on finalizing environmental planning documents, project construction, permits, and other coordinated operations. The Sites Reservoir would be located in rural areas about 60 miles north of Sacramento. And the Sites Reservoir project is currently undergoing evaluation of the benefits and cost update. This update was provided at a Metropolitan Committee last month. The benefits of Sites Reservoir would create a new water supply and would provide opportunities for increased flexibility in water storage and transfers. So far, the benefits have remained steady. However, due to escalation and design development, the costs have increased from about $4 billion to $7.5 billion. And the reasons for the cost increases, they include detailed work around project pipelines and pumping plants. There have been additional geotechnical and survey field work, increased regulatory input from the Division of Safety and Dams, and community input, particularly around the project roads. So the updated cost and benefits will be revisited and confirmed in a program baseline report. So that program baseline report is expected to be available later this year toward the end of 2025. So more to come on that. Next slide. So with respect to Metropolitan Capital Investment Plan, this graphic has been presented to committee members of the Engineering and Operations Committee. There was also a joint board workshop on this related to the projected capital improvement project expenditures. When the board adopted the current biennium budget, a total of $636 million was appropriated for projects for fiscal years 2024-25 and 2025-26. Metropolitan CIP budget is driven by refurbishment and replacement projects, in addition to drought response projects. This program is consistently changing with urgent projects, which adjust the project priorities of what's already included. The program, the reports are showing right now the CIP expenditures could exceed this budgeted amount. And the current expenditure progression shown on this chart shows the planned expenditures, the actual cost, and then the projected cost. Metropolitan staff will be bringing this item to the board in October. There will be an upcoming action for the board members to consider. The staff will be proposing an increase to the CIP budget for this biennium. Next slide. So just look ahead of the items that were going to be on the August agenda, which actually occurred yesterday and Monday earlier this week. So these are just things that we were monitoring. The Engineering and Operations Committee, where what I just mentioned regarding the funding of the capital investment plan. At the One Water and Adaptation Committee, there was an action item which the board approved, was to authorize a local supply chain framework. So at the Finance Committee, the committee members adopted a resolution establishing the ad valorem tax rate. And then there was also a report on the list of certified assessed evaluations, which will bring more detail to you next month on those updates. Next slide. So water supply conditions, I have a graphic here I'm just showing you on Lake Powell, and how it's forecasted to decrease to critical elevation if next year is dry. So Reclamation just released last week the August 2024 month study. The report provides an outlook on hydrology conditions and projected operations for Colorado reservoirs over the next 2 years. And it also sets the operating conditions for Lake Powell and Lake Mead. That report reaffirms the impact of unprecedented drought in Lake Mead is projected to stay in a level 1 shortage condition. Arizona and Nevada will also continue to be affected by the level 1 shortage. So both Lake Powell and Lake Mead are at 31% of storage capacity. Inflows to Lake Powell are expected to be well below average. And if the conditions remain dry in 2026, there is a possibility that additional cuts in the lower basin would be warranted. So with respect to Metropolitan supplies, they are projecting a surplus. The demands on this system are projected to be approximately 1.59 million acre feet, with a supply estimate of 1.77 million acre feet. which equate to about 180,000 acre feet in surplus supplies. So that concludes my update, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tammy. Director Deere, any questions?
No, no questions. Thank you.
Tammy, very thorough report. I don't have any questions either. Eric, any other item on the agenda?
That's it for the INPO calendar, Madam Chair. We do not have a closed session today, so we are on item number 8, director's comments and future agenda items.
Okay, thank you, Director Deere. Any comments or future agenda items?
No, good reports today. Thank you very much.
Yes, I agree. Excellent reports. Thank you, everyone who made reports today. Eric, any comments?
No, Madam Chair, other than our General Manager, E.J. Caldwell, has, of course, recently been elected to the board of the Urban Water Institute, and his absence today is because of his duties there. He is attending at a meeting for that agency.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And with that, this committee meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.